Dave, on the power. So the Royal Purple Hot Hats Championship up next here at Silverstone at this 750 Motor Club race meeting on the international circuit. It's going to be round 8 of this season. We had round 7 yesterday, and that one was won by Ben Rushworth in dramatic circumstances, because about 2/3 of the way through the through yesterday evening's race, the tailgate on his Honda Integra DC2 parted company with the rest of the car at high speed on the Hanger Straight. At first, Ben thought it was a tyre that had blown away. It unsettled the car, and I've seen some on board from Ben's car since then, and yep, it was like a tyre had blown the way. It sort of threw the car into a half spin, which he gathered up. He lost the lead briefly to Stephen Sawley in his Civic, but he was back ahead before the end with his extra air conditioning on board. But overnight and this morning, he has had to fix that car up for today's racing, and I think it's a sort of standard production tailgate that will be affixed to the back of his Honda Integra for today's race, which will be much heavier than the special version that he was sporting before. Second yesterday was Stephen Sawley in his Civic, and Gary Preble, the Castle Combe Saloon Car champion, he was third in another Civic. So actually it was 7 Hondas in the first 7 places in the overall classification, most of them Civics, and in particular Type Rs. Class winners yesterday: Martin Ward winning Class B in his Civic Type R from Scott Sharp and Callum Hoochin, and Class C, the top 3 was David Drinkwater in his Compact from Ian Williamson in his Saxo VTR, and Matt Rowling in his similar car. Now, all of that did very little actually to change what's going on in the championship. So by my unofficial maths, we now have David Drinkwater leading the way on 101 points after his class victory and fastest lap yesterday. From second on 96 points, Ben Rushworth, and then third on 78 points, Ian Williamson in his Class C Saxo. Fourth on 76, Martin Ward in his Class B Civic. The differentials between the classes, power to weight ratio once again. So Class A is for cars up to 260 brake horsepower per tonne, Class B up to 200, and Class C, the Tiddlers class, for up to 145 brake horsepower per tonne. And all of this is checked out by the 750 Motor Club using their mobile dyno facility, which they can bring to race meetings to check the readings and ensure that all of the cars are compliant within their class power to weight ratio limits. So that's what the Hot Hats Championship is all about. And interestingly, it's not quite such a strong grid this weekend, although we do have 26 cars on the grid for race 2, as we had at Cadwell Park a few weeks ago. This perhaps a circuit that doesn't suit quite as well some of the less powerful machinery in Class C. As we watch Barry Mills take away one of the cars from the previous race. Barry Mills has been doing recovery at circuits for years, mostly at Mallory Park. Certainly I remember getting a lift to race meetings on that very truck, probably on occasions in the past before I was driving. He took me to Donington Park, I remember, once or twice. So we've got the circuit being cleared of cars. I can see the tractor also coming back towards me, and we should have the hot hatches out onto the grid very shortly for their second race of the weekend. And Marcus Pye alongside me here in the box. Always interesting to see what the Hot Hatch Championship grid brings out, and some interesting machinery, notably that Ben Rushworth Integra on pole.
Exactly, it's a beautifully prepared car, and he drives it really, really well, quite spectacularly, often a very tail-out style. It runs a fair amount of rake by the looks of things, which seems to exacerbate the look of the sort of oversteer as it goes past quite an exuberant driver, but when required, and he's been in historics as well over the last year or so, driving a Chevron B8 really, really well. He tempers that enthusiasm to just drive within the tyres limitations, but it seems the Honda enjoys that. Be interesting to see whether another hard charger, Chris Southcott, has managed to fix his car or put another engine in, or whatever. The problem was yesterday he was leading briefly after that incident. You explain when Ben Rushworth's tailgate blew out, and then pulled off within a lap or so with a major mechanical failure. And the Southcott cars, and there are numerous in the stable, do tend to be very, very fast and usually pretty reliable. But this particular car let him down yesterday.
It did indeed. Let's take a look at the grid then for the 15th race on the programme, the Royal Purple Hot Hats Championship. Ben Rushworth then on pole position in car number 22 in the Honda Integra, and alongside him on the front row will be Stephen Sawley, number 88 in the Civic. Gary Preble in a Civic, newly built car for this weekend, number 91. He lines on the inside of row 2, alongside number 12, Martin Ward, the first of the Class B cars. Scott Sharp, number 35, and Callum Hooch in 24. They had a good dice yesterday. They line up on row 3 of the grid, alongside Sean Green and William Hunt in 33 and 42 respectively. Will Hunt making his return, the 2017 Class B champion. Row 5 is going to be David Wood in the Honda Integra Type R and James Alford in a Honda Civic Type R, 26 and 16 on row 5. On the 6th row it will be William Oakley in the Peugeot 205 and Dan Williams in the Ford Fiesta ST. The 7th row, number 40, Kevin Bamford in the Renault Clio, and the 17 car of the Class C poleman David Drinkwater, that's the BMW Compact. He's ahead of Ian Williamson and Matt Rowling, the Citroen Saxo VTRs, lining up on row 8. Row 9 of the grid, got the first of a handful of Golf. Stan Gibbs in his Golf GTI Mark II, number 68. He's alongside the Corsa of number 55, David Measday. On the 10th row, number 1, Charlie Collins in his Mini Cooper, and Oliver Lester, number 30, in the second of the Golfs, having their own little private battle. Stuart Wright in an invitation class, number 25 car, in the BMW Compact that he finished at 2 o'clock yesterday morning. He lines up alongside Paul Warren in his Saxo VTR on row 11, and it's Peter Grist in his Golf, and Jonathan Swift, who wasn't classified yesterday, finished the race in the pit lane in his Honda Civic. Rounding out the grid should be, if they're all there, Chris Southcott 21 and Tim Parsons 86 in Peugeot and Golf respectively. So it's going to be a 13-minute plus 1 lap race. Just watching the cars as they filter out of the assembly area, just to see if we do see Chris Southcott's number 21 Peugeot 205 towards the back. Cars dribbling out of the pit lane as we see them out of our commentary box window.
Saw a Mini go through there, and those cars built in a factory in Oxford. These days it's 60 years since the first of the Isagonis Minis, and big celebrations around various circuits and events this season.
I don't see
I didn't see it either.
21 Southcott car.
Grey Peugeot headed back, retreated to Southampton to lick his wounds and go again.
So that should mean, I think, 23 cars on the grid then. Sorry, I don't have them up right, so I meant 25 cars on the grid for this second race of the weekend for the Royal Purple Hot Hats Championship. Already this season we've had races at Brands Hatch, Castle Combe and Cadwell Park, so 3 quite different circuits there for the opening 3 meetings. After Silverstone they go to Donington Park, Snetterton, and back to Silverstone for the Grand Prix circuit meeting in October, where I'm sure that will be a popular event for many drivers, a rare chance to race on the full 3 mile plus Grand Prix circuit.
Interesting to see today whether Gary Preble in that recently built Honda Civic, which is new to him this weekend, goes quicker today than he went yesterday. His confidence in the car should have grown. He's a tremendous driver, winningest driver in Castle Combe's history over the years, numerous championship titles to his name.
And I should think also he'll have learnt some more yesterday and possibly changed the setup since yesterday as well. Learning a bit more about how to make that car go quickly. I imagine we'll see him bring this car out more often as well. Castle Combe also have their own version of Hot Hatch, so we might well see him out in that. And a gap on the front of the grid.
No Stephen Sawley.
No, there is not. So he was going to be sorely missed, I'm afraid, from the front row of the grid. Unless he's late on parade, but no sign of that. So that's going to be a gap then for someone to try and exploit, and that someone will be Martin Ward in the Class B Civic. In the middle of the shot you can see our Class C protagonists, 17 and 11, David Drinkwater in the compact, and number 11, Ian Williamson. And then the rest of the field filtering through. Golf I can see at the back, that will be the car of number 86, Tim Parsons. Interesting to see how this race pans out. 13 minutes plus a lap.
Mark II Golfs were really robust things. Excellent cars. They'll Golf GTI Mark IIs had just the 6 of them on the trot.
Of course, they originally was a 750 Medical ran a Golf GTI Mark II series before that was taken off elsewhere. But some of the competitors have migrated back to the hot hatch grid this season with their own series. Its demise. The race gets underway, and a decent start by Martin Ward from the second row of the grid. Then trying to make the most of that gap ahead of him, and he has done so because he's got ahead of Gary Preble into Abbey for the first time, but he's behind Ben Rushworth in that Honda Integra, which might handle a bit differently, I guess, with extra weight of the standard tailgate on the back. So we'll see how that manifests itself during the course of the race. James Alford's green Civic in the middle of shot there. You can see David Wood in the orange Integra going through as well. Jonathan Swift, he was running quite strongly yesterday, but ended his race in the pit lane, so he's got to fight his way through from the back of the grid, and he's already made up a few places by the looks of the number 7 car just going through shot there. So they're heading out of the link onto the Hanger Straights, and it's Ben Rushworth leading from Gary Preble.
Yeah, Preble has got back past Ward in the early part of this lap. Rushworth car, yes, with that standard sort of white tail gate on it now, and it should be absolutely fine. There's no other damage. Down into the Vale. Now the only option for Club, there was a historic version prior to this year, but it's no longer licensed, which eased the entry to the long right-hander, which completes the lap here on the international circuit and of course the Grand Prix circuit, and Rushworth it is, who leads by 1.68 seconds in.
He does indeed, on to lap 2 of this race. Then you can see number 42 Will Hunt there. He is in combat with number 16 James Alford in the green Integra. It's the ST. That's the first non-Honda of Will Hunt, who won Class B a few years ago, or 2 years ago, making a return this weekend. Good to see him back this year. There's the 26 car, lovely turned out Integra for David Wood, much more modest looking Integra than that of Ben Rushworth at the front of the field. They turn their way through the link and back onto the Hanger Straight for the second time. Martin Ward there third. Fourth looks to be Scott Sharp, number 35 at the moment. Then there's Callum Houchin, who's getting encouragement on the YouTube feed from Jet and Motorsport, I can see. Then it's James Alford there in the green number 16 car, turning his way through Stowe. A whole bevy of Honda Civics filtering through behind it. Side by side between 7 Jonathan Swift and 33 Sean Green. So that's Jonathan Swift back up to 8th position. He was 10th at the end of lap 1 from 24th on the grid, and now he's up to 8th. So a tremendous effort over the first 2 laps this from Jonathan Swift. Living up to his name, clearly, on the first 2 laps of this race. He's just behind James Alford once again. Alford has got back ahead of him. He's about 1.3 seconds behind Will Hunt there in 6th. Swift gets back ahead of Alford now. And Swift has actually got a 10-second penalty for jumping the start. Well, that might explain why he's got quite so far up the order so quickly, Marcus.
Yeah, it doesn't escape the stewards, does it?
No, so adding 10 seconds to his time at the moment would drop him down to about 16th. That will pretty improve as the race goes on and the gaps widen between the other cars. But yeah, Swift with that 10-second penalty, that before jumping the start of the race. So it was his enthusiasm to make up positions. As James Alford then just tucks in behind him is Sean Green, number 33. here you can see Will Hunt in that Fiesta, which is now taking the fight to number 24 Callum Hoochin. This is for 5th position then. Hoochin in the black, yellow and grey Civic Type R with the little wing on the back of it. Meanwhile, Rushworth has exited his lead to 5.4 seconds now over for Gary Preble. Really just those 2 Class A cars surviving the what's proved to be a bit of an arduous weekend for Class A. Class B and Class C still going strong there. I can see it's David Drinkwater, number 17, from Ian Williamson, number 11, by about a couple of seconds in Class C at the moment.
The order is very much per class, isn't it? With those 2 surviving A-class cars, the whole gaggle of 9 Bs, and then the rest of them principally Cs. I guess there might be 1 or 2 displaced down the order, but Jonathan Swift 7th on the road now in the number 7 Honda, and he's about 1.5 seconds, or was at the end of the last lap, behind William Hunt in 42. There is Hunt in the blue Fiesta down the inside of Callum Hoochin, who runs in 5th place in car 24, his Honda. Hoochin from Hinckley up near Mallory Park.
Yep, just trying to fend off Will Hunt there in that 42 car, the driver from Gainsborough in Lincolnshire. So they head back onto the start and finish straight once again. Rushworth it is that's leading by 8 seconds from Gary Preble in 2nd place, but the best battles here are further down the order. Jonathan Swift is now trying to find a way past Will Hunt for track position, which he has done, but that's still he's still got that 10-second penalty to be added to his time at the end of the race. So he's 6th on the road now, but adding that to his time, it will put him about 13th. Alford and Green scrapping for 8th and 9th, and they've got David Wood in the orange Integra just behind them as well.
Yeah, very local driver from Buckingham, David Wood.
Dan Gibbs, I can see, number 68, is the best of the Golfs. And a change for 19th place there with Paul Warren, number 98, in his Saxo, getting ahead of the 36 Peter Grist Golf GTI Mark II. 24 and 7 there, so that's
Swift's ahead of Hoochin, isn't he?
He is. So he is making progress. I mean, he could catch Scott Sharp before the end of this race, you'd think.
Not the ex-Electromotive Nissan IMSA racer, Scott Sharp, I hasten to add.
No, indeed not. 750 Most Club's very own Scott Sharp, who started out racing in Saxos in the Stock Cars Championship, then moved into Clios. He's done some Type R racing as well. So Swift up to 5th on the road now, doing a personal best lap of 1:18.93 that time through. Best
Going away from his pursuers, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. Best lap of the race 1:14.81 for Ben Rushworth. How does that compare to yesterday? 1:14.93 he did yesterday.
So fractionally quicker.
Weather conditions a little bit better, or
a little cooler and less and no crosswind, or less crosswind. Not the gusts, certainly.
No, not that we had yesterday, so a bit more predictable track conditions than yesterday, but so that heavier tailgate not holding him back. He sets the lap record, holds the lap record I should say, 1:14.12. Class B lap record was a 1:17.74 coming into this weekend, and I think it still stands at that. I've got a penalty for Callum Hoochin, number 24 now, so I imagine that's a 5-second penalty for exceeding track limits. It's not showing on our screen at the moment, on our main timing screen, but we saw that flash upon the screen there. So Callum Hoochin clearly has been attracting the attention of the observers.
Swift meanwhile is 2.8 seconds behind Scott Sharp in the 35 car, who is several seconds, about 5.5 seconds adrift of Martin Ward in 3rd place.
James Alford going through there. In the background you can see Will Hunt with Callum Hoochin just behind him, so that's 6th and 7th on the road, 8th and 9th and 10th on the road together here. Alford, who's just in his personal best lap of the race, Sean Green and David Wood, 8th, 9th and 10th, and then Daniel Williams in Kelly's Fiesta in 11th place. Kevin Bamford, the last of the Class B runners on the first page of our screen anyway, in 12th place overall in the number 40 Clio 197. not as many Clios on the grid as there was a year or two back. I think people have realised that certainly in Class B the Civic Type R is the most effective weapon out there.
The Swift one is actually not one of the later ones, is it? It's an earlier shaped car.
Correct. 26 going through is Wood. Novice cross on the back of his car, so a relative newcomer to racing. That's the black cross on the yellow background. But getting well and truly stuck into this battle for 8th, 9th and 10th positions with James Alford and Sean Green, now ahead of Sean Green as well. Ben Rushworth, the race leader, now got a warning as well for exceeding track limits, so he needs to be mindful of that. Although having said that, he could afford a 5-second penalty.
Spinner is 98, another novice driver.
Yeah,
Paul Warren.
Yeah, from Whitstable down in Kent. So he's.
Where there is a fabulous cheese shop.
I'll bear that in mind next time I'm in Whitstable.
The cheese box in Whitstable.
What's happening in Class C? It's still David Drinkwater from Ian Williamson by about 2 seconds there. They've both got past Ian, Kevin Bamford's Clio now, though.
Half a second only between Sharp and Swift on the road.
Well, there they are. It's not even that, because as they come into Stowe, it's... Well, no, Swift is rebuffing... Sharp is rebuffing Swift there, get it the right way round. Still side by side through Stowe Corner. I presume that Jonathan Swift knows he's got a 10-second jump start penalty.
He's got the lighter car, so he can perhaps brake fractionally later, but it's not going to work.
Yeah.
The territory is occupied by Scott Sharp in the 35 later spec Civic.
Yeah, it's not the very latest shape of Civic, but it's the one before that, isn't it? Whereas the one that Jonathan Swift driving is probably originated in the late 90s, about 97.
There we go, job done. Swift through at Abbey, another place gained, but of course he's got that 10-second penalty hanging over his head.
Yeah.
Sword of Damocles.
Yeah, and that would drop him from 4th back to 7th as things stand.
With 1 3/4 minutes-ish to go.
Might just about scrape a top 6 out of it before the end, if things go his way. Callum Houchin's now got a 15-second penalty, so that's a 5 and a 10, because it mounts up. That's how it works.
It's an accumulator.
Yeah, so that will drop him back quite a long way, I think. He is running 7th on the road. It will drop him just outside the top 10, I think, as things stand. Scott Sharp's not giving up here in trying to get back past Jonathan Swift, although he really doesn't need to, given that Swift has this 10-second penalty for an out-of-position start. They lap the Golf of number 36, Peter Grist from Cranbrook. And with just over a minute to go, it is still Ben Rushworth leading this race, by the way. We've not seen a lot of him during this race. He's 13 seconds clear of Gary Preble. Martin Ward in 3rd place, comfortably leading Class B as well. 2
Cranbrook drivers, Oliver Leston also from Cranbrook in this race.
Yeah, and they're both golfers, aren't they? So that's Scott Sharp going through. Will Hunt, you can see the ST going through in 6th position on the road. Might get 5th place out of that with that penalty applied for Jonathan Swift at the end of the race. There is the Corsa. We're not really seeing much of that either. That's David Measday in 19th place in that number 55 Corsa, and he's just about to be lapped by Martin Ward in the Class B leading 3rd place overall Civic. And it's Swift from Sharp, Will Hunt in the background ahead of Callum Houchin with that penalty, and just in behind him is that Golf.
Ben Rushworth has accumulated a 15-second penalty.
Oh, well, that's interesting, isn't it?
Because he's only 13.97 seconds ahead of Gary Preble.
And the time has run out. So last lap board next time through. And so all of a sudden, Ben Rushworth needs to make sure he pulls out 1.03 seconds on the final lap.
But he won't know that, will he? He may just throttle back.
He might do. Oh, I've seen that happen before, where drivers unaware that they've got a penalty have decided to take things relatively easy on the last lap or so with a big lead, and then...
Or see some traffic ahead of them and think, not going to bother.
Yeah. Oliver Leston now has also got a warning, but it's that man, Ben
Dan
Rushworth,
Gibbs
the race
has one
leader.
as well.
So it's a couple of the golfers. So that's a penalty applied to them. Ben Rushworth then coming down towards us. Now I'm just wondering whether this is in fact the last lap and we're going to get the checkered flag this time. So we've got this pause before we know the winner as well of this race, because we'll wait to see Gary Preble come through. So he comes through now, does Ben Rushworth, and he doesn't get the checkered flag. So he's on to the final lap of the race now, is Ben Rushworth. And it will take about 15 seconds for us to find out if he's still in the lead of this race, because we've got to wait for Gary Preble to come through in second position. He's just out of club corner now, I can see, and the gap is 15.18. So with a lap to go, Ben Rushworth has done enough, unless he infringes again.
He leads by 18 hundredths of a second.
Yes.
It looks to you and me like a large gap, but it's not in reality.
I think if he infringes again, I think it's then a 30-second penalty, which make it 45 altogether. So he needs to do something quite special on the last lap, which is halfway around. He's got that's Ian Williamson's car ahead of him on the road to try and lap, who's running second within.
Is he going to bother to catch them? That's the point now.
Yeah.
This might be, there's two cars battling ahead of him. So one of them was Williamson, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of best laps, his best lap is almost 2 seconds better than Gary Preble's best lap. So even if he eases off to the tune of 2 seconds, he should still be all right. Down towards the Vale he goes. I don't think he was going to quite catch them in any case, was he, before the end? Through the Vale he goes.
What's his last lap going to be? His previous lap was 1:15.7.
Yeah, whereas Preble's was 1:16.91. So up to the line he comes, and on the road at least, Ben Rushworth wins round 8.
A 16.8 though, a much longer lap.
Yeah, so what is the lap time going to be for Gary Preble? He needs to do basically a 1:16.6 or better, doesn't he, roughly, to win this race. He comes through Prebs now out of the corner. Let's have a look at our timing screen. And he's not done it. 15.44 seconds, so 0.44 seconds the victory margin for Ben Rushworth over Gary Preble. Who's that's trudging away, looking rather dejected. We can see the driver, we can't see the car that belongs to him. We'll try and work out who that is in a moment. We've still not had our third place man through yet. Here he comes, Martin Ward now over the line to win Class B in this Royal Purple Hot Hats Championship, round 8 of it, with 3 meetings still to come this season at Donington Park, Snetterton and Silverstone.
1B yesterday as well, so it's a double for Martin Ward.
Yeah, so it looks like all of the Class Championship leads are going to extend their lead with Class victories here. We're just waiting for David Drinkwater to come through in the compact. He was just ahead of Rushworth.
Swift is 4th on the track, but he's going to finish behind. Oh no, Hoochin's got a penalty anyway, so he's going to finish. He's going to lose a couple of places to Sharp and Hunt, isn't he?
He is.
Would have lost out to Hoochin as well had he not been penalised himself.
Yeah, and David Drinkwater goes across the line any moment now. There he is to take the victory in Class C, and only just ahead of Ian Williamson in the end by about 0.6 of a second. So Ian Williamson closed him down towards the end.
Excellent drive by 26, the local novice David Wood, 8th place in the orange Honda Integra.
Yeah, and that was a good drive from him. He had to get past both of those cars that he was battling with during the course of that race. So we will see the results in just a moment from that one, as there's marshals moving out to try and recover broken cars from around the Silverstone campus. But the win went to Ben Rushworth then, once again, his 5th victory of the season now. Gary Preble second, 15 seconds behind them. Martin Ward, our Class B winner, third. On the road ahead of Jonathan Swift, but he's got a penalty to be applied to his time. Scott Sharp 5th, Will Hunt 6th. Callum Hoochin likewise has a penalty. Further back, David Drinkwater won Class C for the up to 145 brake horsepower cars from Ian Williamson by about 0.6 of a second. Those were the last 2 cars on the lead lap. Matt Rowling was 3rd, Dan Gibbs 4th, Oliver Leston 5th. All of those in Class C. Paul Warren it was that rounded out the top 20. But we lost Charlie Collins Mini. I think that's the car that's stationary at the exit of Club Corner in the end. And Tim Parsons, number 86, lost those much earlier on. So that's it from the Royal Purple Hot Hats Championship. They will regroup at Donington Park in a few weeks' time. In the meantime, let's head down to the pit lane and hear from Josh Barrett.
Thanks, Ian. Ben, I don't know if you know this, but you only just won by 0.4 of a second because of some track limit penalties.
Yeah, and I was going around wondering where. Right. So I don't know if they just wanted to spice it up a bit, or if Gary paid them off or something like that. But yeah, so I saw the track limits come out flag, and then I was like, oh, I better take it easy and not run over everything. The next lap, I got time penalty, so I was a bit confused. So I tried to put the hammer down a bit to try get some more time, because I didn't know how far back he was, but that's pretty lucky. 2 spicy races.
Everything good from fixing the car last night?
Yeah, it's a bit heavier because we put a standard tailgate, it's got glass and everything, but it works all right out there. I think we still dropped the time a tiny bit. But yeah, it was good, no problems.
Check.
Missing the other drivers.
Do you know what happened to Steve?
Steve took his car for a drive around the perimeter road to check it, and it threw a rod out the block. He wasn't speeding. But yeah, it's just bad luck. Literally, there's 2 Class A's cars left out of everyone. It's insane.
Hopefully some of the guys will get back out for Donington in a few weeks.
Steve has promised me he's going to kick my ass at Donington, so...
Well done this weekend, 2 wins.
Cheers.
Second place was Gary, and again, I don't know if you know this, Gary, but you only lost out by 4/10 of a second because of some penalties for Ben.
Yeah, I didn't actually realise that. Might try a little bit harder if I want for that. No, I'm joking. I was wringing the poor neck out of the poor little girl, but no, I've done well. I mean, it's the first time we've ever got the car. We literally only bought the car 2 weeks ago, so it's been a tall order to get the car ready in time. So yeah, thanks to Jodie, my other half, for putting up with a lot of late nights in the garage. But yeah, no, we've got the car going. It's underpowered at the moment. We knew it was going to be underpowered for today, but I can't grumble. A second and a third. Yeah, can't grumble. Had a good weekend, really.
How different is it to the 205?
Very different. Yeah, it's a lot nicer to drive. The suspension's a little bit more modern. The 205's got an old beam on the back, and they're a little bit more leery. So I'm sure with a bit more power, it'll become a bit more lively. But yeah, just need some more grunt, and we'll be all right. I think we'll be up with them.
Look forward to seeing it get up there.
Thank you.
Then in third place, Class B winner Martin, well done, another win.
Yeah, it's much the same as yesterday, really. It was a little bit closer, but I looked in my mirror and I could see Scotty Sharp coming, and all of a sudden he went away, and that was it then. I just sat there on my own.
Well done. I think we haven't got time for any more, so we're going up to the next race.